Okay, I do believe we are live.
We are.
Hello. Welcome after a long hiatus to Battle Tested History number 11.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year, everyone. Um, this time, okay, so we've got Sarah Connor, we've got Ripley, you've
Yeah.
got um, Laura Croft, you've got Celine, the vampire death dealer
Underworld,
from
yeah.
Underworld. All these badass chicks before any of them came to real life Amelia Earhart.
Yeah.
No matter what else you say about her, and there are some detractors, but no matter what else you say about her, that lady was a real, honest to God, badass.
Yeah. Yeah. I loved researching this show. This so far has been my favorite
Mm-hmm.
because everybody knows Amelia Earhart. Everybody knows she was lost during her around the world flight. But the stuff I found out about like the mountains she had to climb, you know, what was the name of the movie we watched?
Amelia,
Okay, with oh, I can't remember who the actress was.
uh, uh, she was in Million Dollar Babies.
Okay, I don't remember, but
Yeah,
and she did a great job. But the movie was very accurate. And like one of the scenes was when they're talking about how she was the first woman to cross the Atlantic. And then I'm like watching the movie. She didn't fly the plane. She was just in. She wanted to pilot the plane, and the two guys wouldn't let her. Women don't know how to fly. They
exactly.
just flew her across the Atlantic. Yeah, no, she was very groundbreaking. She was an inspiration, um, but it's just now her death has just become her disappearance has become so mixed up in controversy,
Mm-hmm.
mystery, conspiracy theories.
Yeah, well, see, here's the thing. The real, actual, historical lady
Hmm.
was a study in contradictions.
Yeah,
Um, she's the most famous female aviator of all time.
yeah,
From all indications, she wasn't really a great pilot. She was good,
hmm,
but most of her experience was one stunt flight, then another one, then another one. She wasn't barnstorming. She wasn't getting a lot of flight hours in.
right.
She would fly, then she would raise money, then she'd do some other stunt flight, then she'd raise
Mm-hmm.
more money. Um, she really didn't know how to navigate,
Mm,
which is why she ended up having Noonan along.
yeah,
She didn't really know how to operate the radios, didn't know Morse code, um, but what she had was unbridled courage
yeah,
and absolute pig-headedness.
yeah.
She
That
is, yeah,
yeah, that determination to be the to break through that glass ceiling for women aviators. And even the movie touched on the fact about how many women admired her and wanted to be like her.
oh yeah. By the time she took that round the world flight, she had stopped being Amelia Earhart the woman, and she had become Amelia Earhart the commodity.
Yeah,
She was a dancing bear.
yeah.
It was only when she was flying that they would leave her alone. There was nobody there with her, so
Yeah.
she could do her thing. Um, Realistically, she shouldn't have taken off from Leahy when she did. She should have waited. She also should have picked a different first destination than Howland Island.
Yeah, that was like just at the limit of her fuel range.
Right, it was just at the limit of her fuel range. From all indications, Noonan, the guy that went with her, was an okay navigator, but he was also a drunk.
Mm.
And as it happened, the day they took off, they ran into heavy cloud cover. Well, back then you didn't have GPS.
Yeah,
You didn't have radar in the airplanes.
right.
And even if you did, there's nothing. You're flying over empty ocean. You had to use celestial navigation,
Mm-hmm.
navigating by the stars, the sun, and the moon. Well, for that, you need a horizon.
Yeah.
If you fly in the clouds, there's no horizon.
Yeah.
Plus, you can't see the sun. You can't see the stars.
Yeah.
So they were essentially, it's called dead reckoning, DED reckoning. It stands for deductive reckoning,
Oh,
which is essentially an educated guess.
yeah. That if you screw it up, you're dead.
Yes.
Yeah. Just for the people listening who don't know the full history, she died in 1930. Emelia Earhart and Noonan disappeared in 1937. They were doing an around the world flight, and they had pretty much completed it. They had gone to South America, Africa, India. They had crossed to Australia, and they were in Papua New Guinea, which is just to the northeast. Yeah, northeast. And they were going to make their way back to Hawaii. But there's just the huge expanse of the Pacific Ocean. And the only place they could land to refuel was this tiny little island, Howland Island, which is literally, like Jeff was saying, without GPS, without radars, is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. And after they left Leh, they disappeared on the way to Howland Island, and no one ever heard from them again. There's no evidence about what happened to them. A lot of theories, but no evidence.
And some of those theories are, woohoo!
Some of them are insane, but
Yeah. Yeah. See, the thing is, you really can't grasp how big the Pacific Ocean is.
Hmm.
It covers 30% of the Earth's surface.
Yeah.
That's how big that thing is. It is said that at the widest part, you can fit 5 moons in the widest part of that ocean.
Yeah.
There's a lot of nothing out there.
Yeah.
And if you look at a map of that area of New Guinea, Australia, the Solomon Islands, the Marshall Islands, the Gilbert Islands, if you look at a map, it doesn't look that bad.
Yeah.
Until you calc out what the actual distances are.
Yeah.
They went 2,500 miles in a single shot to this little nothing that was the closest island was 350 nautical miles away.
Mm.
The next closest island was about 500 miles away.
Mm.
If you're running out of gas,
Yeah.
that's the first thing. The second thing is, if you're making an educated guess and you're wrong,
Yeah.
you don't even have to be wrong by that much. But if you're going 2,500 miles on a particular course, if you're off by just a couple of degrees,
Mm-hmm.
you can miss that island completely.
Yeah. And out in that section of the Pacific, the island chains are few and far between. So it's not like you can oh, we missed exit 1, let's take exit 2. Exit 2 is 5-6 states away.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that brings us to one of the conspiracy theories that they were forced down or somehow landed in Japanese held territory
Right.
and were taken prisoner
Yeah.
and or executed. Well, okay. The nearest island, not the what was the island that they whatever the island was that was the alternate that people thought maybe they might have gone to.
Are you talking Gardner Island, or are you
Gardner
talking
Island,
Gardner?
which is called something else completely incomprehensible now.
Nikumaro.
Yeah, yeah, that's a typical island name.
Yeah.
My personal favorite was Kapingamarangi. That's an actual island out there, Kapingamarangi. But yeah, so that was 350 miles away. At 500 or so miles was Kiribati, which was about 100 miles from Tarawa.
Yeah.
Which, okay, you think Tarawa, great battle during the Second World War, Japanese held island. You think, okay, maybe that's plausible, except the Japanese didn't occupy that island until 1941. In 1937, there weren't any Japanese present in that area. They weren't there yet. So, sorry, didn't happen.
I don't buy it, but the theory that I think has become very popular is them winding up in Saipan.
Not a chance in hell.
Well, they, according to the theory, they landed at Mealy Atoll, which is right near Jaluit. And the Japanese owned these islands in 1937. And they landed. They were captured. The plane was taken. It was taken from the little atoll to Jaluit. And then they eventually went to Saipan. And according to different, there's a lot of Saipanese citizens who claim they saw her. There's people that claim they saw the Electra, the plane that they were flying, that they saw a woman, a Caucasian woman that looked like Emelia. They saw a Caucasian man that looked like Noonan. The problem is none of the stories match. Some of the stories have the two of them executed within days of arriving in Saipan. Others have them surviving until the end of the war, and then during the invasion, they were executed. One GI claims that he saw the Electra on an airfield, and military leadership immediately saw it and had the plane burned and had the ashes distributed. So,
how convenient.
Yeah, how nice conspiracy theory.
Yeah, the you have to take what the Saipanese citizens said with a grain of salt, and I'll tell you why. During the Battle of Saipan, the Japanese soldiers told the civilians that the U.S. Marines would eat them.
Yeah.
The result of which is that when it became clear the island would fall, I mean, it was over 100 of these citizens went to this cliff and threw themselves off of it.
Yeah. Family members would jump as a group. Yeah.
They would throw their kids over it.
Yeah.
And then follow them.
Yeah.
I don't think you can rely on them as eyewitnesses.
Even if you could say, okay, there were enough people reporting, the reporting was similar, but it wasn't identical, there is no sound proof. No one has ever found the bodies. No one has ever found any exact evidence. There's no paperwork that says they were there. It's just all speculation. It would never stand up in a court of law.
No. Um, well, but let's follow this particular rabbit hole
Okay.
just for fun, because
we love rabbit holes.
Some of these theories are just hilarious. My personal favorite is that Amelia Earhart, after being captured by the Japanese, became Tokyo Rose.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That just it's too silly to even contemplate. But some people take it seriously.
Yeah, well, it was, let me see. Her husband blew that theory apart because after the war, he listened to all the recordings of the Tokyo Roses and he swore none of them sounded like Amelia Earhart.
Yeah, there was more than one Tokyo Rose.
Right. And I just sorry, I cannot fathom Amelia Earhart working for the Japanese that way. Not a woman with her determination, her courage, her strength.
And even if she had been forced at gunpoint or whatever to do this, we're talking about a very smart woman.
Yeah.
She went to Columbia.
Mm-hmm.
Which in the 1920s, a woman going to Columbia, that was no slouch.
Yeah.
That was like Ivy League. It was as close to Ivy League as a woman could get. She would have found a way.
Yes.
To make it known.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody did.
Yeah. And I don't think any of the other women who were Tokyo Rose ever mentioned her. Mm-hmm. So now that's a nice conspiracy theory. There was another one that she was, let me see if I can find it, that she was captured by the Japanese, sent to Japan, and after the war, after the surrender, when U.S. soldiers found her, they spirited her back to the United States, gave her a new identity as a bank teller, and she was living out her life incognito, like in the witness protection program. Except that theory fell apart when the woman who they claimed was Emelia Earhart sued the book publisher, saying, "I'm that woman. I'm not Emelia Earhart."
Well, just on the surface of it,
yeah.
Why? Why would she have to go into witness protection? The war is over. Japan is utterly defeated. What she have to be afraid of?
The only reason I would put any credence into that theory, and I don't, I think that's insane. But the only reason is if she was on a spying mission for the American Navy, this would be their way of covering up the whole thing. Because back in 1945, this would have been a controversy that would have been their version of Watergate. But I don't even buy the theory that she was spying.
Well, okay. She and Eleanor Roosevelt were buddies.
Yeah.
They hung out. She would visit them at the White House. She would stay at the White House.
Yeah.
So from that aspect, it is on paper anyway reasonable. However, this was 1930s, 1940s. She was a woman.
Yeah.
And I don't care how influential Eleanor was. FDR No way.
Yeah.
There's no way.
And the other two reasons I ruled out. Now, there's reports out there citing Nimitz as saying, well, let's see, there was one report Nimitz supposedly told one of his commanders at the end of the war, when I think he was going to Saipan, that, you might find information about Emelia Earhart. And then there was a Marine general who said, oh, yeah, Emelia Earhart was spying for us and was captured, but then refused to elaborate. But again, like the people on Saipan, there's no evidence. This is all hearsay. But to me, I rule it out because there's nothing she could have seen giving her fuel range.
Right.
I mean,
exactly.
Mealy, where they supposedly landed, and Jaluit, where they were taken and supposedly seen, they were nothing. They were just tiny little atolls. The main force, the Japanese, would still be hundreds of miles away in Saipan. And if they were going to be doing this, they wouldn't have let Noonan go with them.
No.
They would have given her a top. They would have given her a top-notch navigator. But now, thinking back on my 23 years with the CIA, no, they would do something stupid like that.
Well, that was part her own fault, because the original plan was to go from San Francisco to Hawaii,
Mhm.
and then cross going west to east.
Yeah.
And she had Noonan and two other people as her crew, another navigator and a mechanic, an engineer. Their first attempt, the plane crashed on takeoff.
I remember that. Yeah.
And you remember, Emelia was flying. Was it her fault? Who knows? Who cares? It disabled the aircraft. It ended up costing them $30,000 to fix it. And in 1937, 30 grand was a chunk of change.
Yeah.
And in that time frame, she lost one of the navigators and the engineer, which her husband, for some reason, thought she might be having an affair with this guy.
Yeah.
So he pushed him aside. So at the time that they took off, this time going in the opposite direction, it was just her and Noonan.
Yeah.
They flew over South America and Africa and Saudi Arabia, the whole 9 yards. Made it as far as, if you look at the map of their route, they were overland for most of it, except for the Atlantic. And she'd already made a crossing of the Atlantic, two of them.
Yeah.
One on her own.
Yeah.
So, but there were no great stretches of, except when she crossed the Atlantic. But she got past that, it was land.
Yeah.
Anything went wrong, she could take it down.
Exactly.
But you can't land on water.
No. Well, you can, but it ain't going to stay afloat long.
Exactly. When they left New Guinea, she left two very important pieces of equipment behind. One was a trailing antenna wire that essentially dragged behind the airplane, giving them greater range. The other was the Morse key.
Yeah.
She never used one before. Didn't really understand. She was no good at Morse code. Noonan was no help either. So they went with bare minimum equipment. So as a result, when they were making the approach to Howland Island, they were calling out to talk to a Coast Guard cutter, by the way,
Yeah.
called the Itasca,
Yeah.
was waiting for them at Howland Island. They were going to get their fuel from the Itasca. Because there's nothing on Howland Island.
Hmm.
Um, so the uh, the Itasca could hear her. She could not hear them. So there's some argument that the two communication systems, the one in their airplane
Mm-hmm.
and the one in the Itasca, weren't compatible. But clearly they had to be in some way because the Itasca could hear her.
Could hear her.
Yeah.
Well, if she also got rid of that long antenna, that might have screwed it up.
Yeah.
Plus,
Yeah.
plus nobody knows how far off course she was. I mean, everybody
Yeah.
sort of assumed she was just a little off course. If they went off too far to the east or west, they could well be out of range.
Yeah. The last transmission the Itasca picked up said that she was on a line going, I think it was like 15732, whatever it was,
Yeah.
going north and south. Well, in the first place, how accurate was her position?
Mhm.
Maybe she was on that line, maybe she wasn't.
Yeah.
As it happens, the Gibson Islands or whatever, Island,
Gardner Island, yeah.
Gardner Island, yeah, was on that line.
Mm-hmm.
And they supposedly heard, like a week later, transmissions that people believed were her.
Mm-hmm.
They were three of them that they triangulated to Gardner Island. Well, they flew over Gardner Island during the search.
Yeah.
Found nothing.
Right.
Subsequently, people have searched in that area, including the guy who found the Titanic.
Ballad, yeah. A ballad. I'm sorry, ballad.
Yeah. No trace of the aircraft.
No
Now, granted, we're talking a huge area.
Yeah. Now we don't know if the plane went down close to the island. If it did, this is one of the two theories I could buy, because the search planes went over. They said that it looked like somebody might have been there, but there was no signs of human life. There was no plane, no wreckage. They never found any wreckage. But when a crew went out later, I think in 91, they found stuff in the island that was suspicious. They found a piece of metal that could have come from an airplane from that time period. They found a woman's shoe dating from 1930, and they found a bottle of skin cream that Emelia Earhart was known to use. But there was no sign. The only evidence of any human, apparently, was they found a skeleton torn apart. It was just broken apart. And there was an expedition that went out there with a dead pig. And they put the dead pig onto the beach where Emelia and Noonan supposedly were. We don't even know if Noonan was there. He might have died in the crash. And they filmed it. I've never seen the film, but the big giant crabs came out and just ripped the pig apart, tore it limb from limb, and then they all took him back to their lair. Which, God, a horrible way to go.
Yeah, well, and the skeleton was male.
Oh, it was male. Okay.
It was male, and it was of short stature.
Oh, then.
So ultimately, when it comes down to is Occam's razor.
Yeah.
When all things being equal, the simplest explanation is usually the right one.
Yeah.
Well,
But they went down in the Pacific, and the search party never found them, which is not unusual.
not even a little bit.
It wasn't a huge plane. There wasn't a lot of stuff on board. You know, it's not like it was a 747 that was going to leave a huge debris field.
No, it wasn't. Well, here's a good example. When I was in the Coast Guard, we had 2 cases where we lost helicopters and the air crews. The second one happened. The aircraft crashed in the ocean. Resources were on the spot immediately.
Yeah.
All they found was I think they found a wheel.
Hmm.
That was it.
Yeah.
The rest of the aircraft was on the bottom.
Yeah.
Well, if they end up on Gibson Island,
Yeah.
Gardner Island, was like a week later.
It was a week later they flew over. Yeah.
You're not going to find anything.
No.
Nothing.
No.
And again, there is a lot of absolutely nothing out there.
Yes.
We used to go down. I've been in that area 3 times, at least twice. We would go down to American Samoa every year to work the aids of navigation.
Yeah.
And American Samoa is about 1,000 miles southeast of Howland Island, which is still a long damn way.
Yeah. And American Samoa, if I remember, isn't like even part of an island chain. It's like in the middle of nowhere.
Well, kinda.
Well,
again, everything can be said
yeah.
to be the middle of nowhere in the Pacific Ocean. Except maybe Australia.
Yeah.
Yeah, so these islands are tiny.
Yeah.
Tiny. And even if you're off, if you're off by 20 or 30 miles,
Right.
it's possible
To just miss it.
You couldn't see it.
Yeah, it's not like Hawaii. You know, if you're 30 miles off, you look over and there's this huge stretch of beach.
Right. Yeah. It's just a coral atoll.
Yeah.
With like some sand on it.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it. That's what most of these islands are. I'm sorry to all the conspiracy theorists, but hello, Dungeon Dan.
Hi, Dungeon Dan.
Sorry to all these conspiracy theorists, but no.
Everything that cannot be explained has a conspiracy theory to it.
Yeah. But Emelia Earhart can be explained.
Yeah.
They ran out of gas.
Yeah.
They fell into the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
They died.
Yeah. But there's no proof that they fell into the ocean. That we wouldn't even be having this show if they found the wreckage. Right. And they went in and they pulled up the bodies of Emelia and Noonan, and it was a closed case. So
yeah. But I don't know, man. Sorry, but no.
Yeah. Well, I remember too, I was looking to research the photograph that was supposedly taken of the Electra, Noonan, and Emelia at Jaluit. And you couldn't see, all you saw was the tail fin of a plane.
Mm-hmm.
It was blocked out by a ship. And there were two people that their backs were to the camera. They were small, it was blurry. They looked Caucasian. And everybody used that. Even I think somebody from the Treasury Department used that as proof that they were captured by the Japanese. And some researcher went in. Oh, I think it was also on it was a History Channel show. And some researcher went in, looked it up. He found the photograph in a coffee table book published in Japan in 1935. The Japanese didn't take over Jaluit until 1937. So.
Well, yeah. Well, obviously, she couldn't disappear 2 years before she took the flight.
Yes. Unless we're talking time travel, but that's another topic.
Aliens. It must have been aliens.
Well, yeah, Dan, we were talking earlier about the conspiracy thing. She was Tokyo Rose. They found her in Japan after the war, and they secreted her back to the state and gave her a different identity as a bank teller, and I'm on the East Coast.
You know, that one, just on the face of it, they could have brought her back, given her a ticker tape parade.
Exactly.
She'd have been the queen of America, and she would never have to fly again, ever.
But she would have.
Oh, she would have.
She would have.
But yeah, I mean, she would have been set for the rest of her life. Instead, she wants to be an anonymous bank teller.
Yeah.
No.
You know, and I understand the reasoning behind it. Oh, she was on a spy mission, and the Roosevelt administration would have been upset. One, she would have been an even bigger hero after we defeated the Japanese for spying on them. And who gave a crap? Roosevelt had passed away already. Truman was the president. And Truman had nothing to do with the administration in 1937. So there would have been no bad reputation on him.
And why would they have to cop to her being a spy?
Well, that's true, yeah.
Maybe they ended up on an island.
Yeah.
The Japanese didn't occupy every single damn island.
No.
You know, why couldn't they have just said, well, she was on this other, blah, 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 blah. Ooh,
it's just, you can't prove it, so you make up a story and, you get your 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah. And there are people gullible enough to believe it.
Yeah. Now, I believe they were lost at sea. I will put credence into the Gardner Island story because it does seem plausible. But even the investigators have said we have no solid evidence.
Yeah, I mean, the search flew over that island a week later.
Yeah.
Where were they?
Yeah.
You mean to tell me they didn't hear the airplane?
Yeah.
No.
They found the piece of metal, and the piece of metal, they analyzed it.
It was aluminum.
It was aluminum. It came from a plane from that era, but there were some markings on it. And they've never been able to trace the markings back to Emelia Earhart's plane. Now, some people are claiming, well, that could have been the aluminum patch that was put on the plane during the trip. But again, you can't prove it was the aluminum patch. So It's the only other theory other than Lost at Sea that I give any credence to.
Yeah, well, the piece of aluminum, even the shoe and the cream, if that even existed.
Yeah.
You mean to tell me that Emelia Earhart is the only person who flew a plane over that area?
Yeah.
You know how many planes flew over that area during the Second World War?
Yeah.
They're all made out of aluminum.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Now, this is going to be one of those mysteries, but the movie itself was really good. I watched it. I liked it. Um, ah, I want to say I think she won the Cross of the French Legion of Honor, but I'm not sure about the Distinguished Flying Cross because she wasn't military, was she?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I know she holds or she held a lot of records.
Yeah.
Um, she was the first man or woman to fly from Hawaii to California.
Mm-hmm.
She had the airspeed record for crossing the United States. Did it in like 19 hours back then. That's fast back then.
Back then, yeah. It's super fast if you're flying Southwest.
Yeah. But it's interesting to note that she flew from Hawaii to California, not the other way around.
Yeah.
Flying that way, all you can do is head east. Eventually you'll hit land.
Yeah.
Flying west, you could miss the Hawaiian Islands.
Yeah.
And there's nothing out there.
No. No, the movie is good. I recommend it for anybody. It's very accurate. There's some parts that are dramatized, but you have to do that for a movie. But all in all, I think it's a very accurate portrayal of her, her courage and determination. I know I use that a lot, and the impact she had not only on aviation but just with women throughout the United States who just saw her as somebody they could look up to, and maybe we could do something different rather than just stay home and raise the kids.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and at the time, aviation itself was brand new.
Yeah.
It hadn't been around long enough to establish male dominance. There were a lot of women, female aviators.
Yeah.
She was not the best of them.
No. But she's the most famous.
She's the most famous.
In 1937, even the military hadn't accepted aviation.
No.
No, their whole plot to deal with the Japanese was to take all the battleships out of Pearl Harbor, drive them across the Pacific, engage the Japanese Navy, and defeat them in battle. And Japanese, December 7th, 1941, proved the importance of aviation.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
They were not, however, the first people to fire torpedoes from an airplane at a ship. You know who were? The Brits when they went after the Bismarck.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Toronto.
Refresh my memory.
Toronto, when they raided it wasn't the French fleet. I think it was the Italian fleet in Toronto.
Right.
They did a Pearl Harbor type attack and wiped out the Italian, did a number on the Italian Navy. There was, I can't remember his name. They talk about him in the movie Midway, the 1975 version. The guy that took a squadron of fighters off of one of the American carriers and raided Pearl Harbor. He did almost exactly what the Japanese would do in 41, and they wrote it off as just a fluke.
Yeah. Well, the impressive thing about what the Japanese did was that nobody had done that in such shallow water.
Yes. Yeah.
When the Brits did it on the Bismarck in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah.
It's the Bismarck wreck. I just watched a documentary on that. Was found in 3 miles of water.
Mm.
So too cool for all that shit. Yeah.
Yeah. Although the Italians didn't. The Italian Navy was sitting in Toronto when the Brits came in and blew the hell out of it.
Yeah, well, you can't really give many props to the Italian military during the Second World War. They were not that impressive.
No, they weren't. Like the old joke, how does an Italian admiral review his fleet? Through a glass bottom boat?
Yeah. Yeah.
It would have been interesting to see if she had lived, what role she would have played in World War II.
Good chow. That is important.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been.
Because I remember Lindbergh was asked, and he flew out to the Pacific in like 1941, 1942, maybe early 43. He taught all the fighter pilots how to extend their gas range, things they could do with the engine and that, so they didn't burn as much gas, so they had longer range to escort the bombers.
Right. Now, there were female aviators during the Second World War.
Yes.
They weren't in combat, but they were shuttling aircraft to where they needed to go.
I think they were the WASPs, right? Women's Air Service Pilots.
I forget all the acronyms, but yeah, possible. Who knows? But it would have been interesting to see her around. Although she confessed to her sister often that she didn't think she would live that long. She was kind of fatalistic about it. And as a matter of fact, that round the world flight was, according to a lot of people, going to be her last stunt flight.
It was.
As it happened, yes.
Yeah.
So what do you think, Dan? Give us your insight. And if you use anal leakage, I will kill you. You gotta say that to Dan. Otherwise he'll just go off. But anyway, while we're waiting for his no doubt intellectual response, I didn't actually get around to watching the movie. I did watch 2 or 3 documentaries. I would never say anal leakage. Yeah. You sick bastard. But anyway, we got 12 minutes left. So, I don't know what you got going on, man.
I am struggling to get through Nurse Alyssa 9. I had, for those who follow me, December was a bad month. My poor wife was in the hospital for most of it. She kept on going in and out for her stomach issue. So I was like running the show here. It was a madhouse. And now after like 4 to 6 weeks of not writing, it's very hard for me to get back into it. But I'm working on Nurse Alyssa 9. I'm researching the 4th Tatiana book. And I'm bringing back the Rada World trilogy in a box set near the end of the month.
Awesome. Has she gotten better?
Yeah, well, no. She's still having the problem, but now she has the additional problem. She has somehow there's a muscle around the stomach, and the muscle keeps contracting, and when it does, it closes her stomach. Nothing can get through, not even liquid.
So diaphragm?
Is
it her diaphragm?
No, it's not her diaphragm. For some reason, I guess when they were doing some of the previous surgeries, a muscle got wrapped around her stomach. So she has to go back in February and they didn't want to do it when they first saw it, but because it's very not dangerous, but it's very precise. Because if they cut a little bit beyond the muscle, they're going to cut open the stomach. So
that would be bad.
yeah, so she's not a very happy camper now. She's in misery. She's in constant pain. But hopefully after February 9th, she'll be back on her feet.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I'm wondering what Dan meant by the circus animal incident.
Yeah, I wondered about that too. What the hell are you talking about, dude? This should be good.
Yeah. And while we're waiting, Jeff, what are you up to?
Okay, yeah.
She doesn't know that yet.
Okay, so Epic Mayhem 3, Senseless Slaughter, comes out tomorrow.
Good.
Comes out tomorrow. I am currently reviewing the audio version of Full Metal Zombie.
Mm-hmm.
So that should be uploaded to Audible in 2 days. And Matt will be starting you sick son of a bitch.
No, that is the documentary you saw on Pornhub.
I didn't want to go there, man.
We all love Dan. We love him.
Yeah, we do. But yeah, I'm starting on Epic Mayhem 4, Death and Destruction. I'm also, you should be happy about this. Nice and respectful, and you failed. Yeah, you did. Epically. I'm starting work on finishing the Pressure series.
Yes.
At about, actually between now and when I finish Death and Destruction, I'll be re-releasing Crawl after I update it some.
Oh, okay.
Well, there's a lot of social and political stuff that things have progressed since I wrote it the first time.
I know what you mean, yeah.
So I'm tweaking it. And Stand Tall, the third book, is about halfway done. But I need to take care of all the stuff in Crawl so that it goes into Stand Tall.
That Yellowstone series, folks, is what got me hooked on Jeff's books. It is phenomenal. It's his version of what happens when Yellowstone goes boom.
Yeah, the reason I haven't done it, I've said this before, I haven't finished it, is that the third book concerns essentially the breakdown of social order.
Yeah.
Does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
Yeah. Last few years have been a little bit too close to what I was writing.
Yeah.
So it was like, I really don't want to go there. Now I'm going to, because screw it. Why not?
Yeah, we've been doing this for 6 years.
Yeah. Yeah. And then following Pressure, I'm going to do the 10th Guardians of the Apocalypse book.
Yeah.
The working title right now is Murphy's Law of Zombies.
That's another great series. That is zombie porn. I mean, he uses the military vessels, chain guns, everything to just rip zombies apart.
Well, if you're going to have zombies,
yeah,
you might as well blow them up.
Yeah. But I mean, he doesn't blow up one or two or three.
It's the zombies.
Yeah, Zack Snyder ought to produce those. Turn those into a movie.
Exactly. Zombies are like potato chips. You can't just kill one.
Though you killed off my favorite character in the first 4 books.
Yeah.
I'm not saying who. Jeff knows.
It had to be done.
I know.
It had to be done. But that pretty much, we got 5 minutes left. So, last thoughts, parting thoughts?
No, I mean, it was very fascinating. I learned a lot about her that I'd never known before. I got a much better appreciation for her.
Yeah, as I said, she was one of the original badasses.
Yes.
No question about it. No matter what else you say about the woman, no matter what happened to her, she was a hero.
Yes. Yeah.
And, you know, I am in awe of the lady. I really am.
And I mean, that was a great era between the end of World War One, or actually even World War One, when the planes were first used in combat, right up until the late 30s, early 40s, when the war broke out in Europe. That was just the time. It was adventurous. You know, one of my favorite movies is The Great Waldo Pepper.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I mean, it was new, it was exciting. Anybody could do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you look at what happened in the first 30 years of the 20th century.
Yeah.
You know, we were explorers still.
Yeah.
There were parts of this planet we had nobody been to yet.
Yeah.
Not so much anymore, but
No.
But yeah, there was actual adventure. All those great pulp adventure stories. Tarzan.
Yeah.
That was the 30s.
Yeah.
Indiana Jones. That was the 30s.
Yeah.
30s, early 40s. That was such a free and wild time. It was also much deadlier than Hollywood makes it out to be, but oh well.
You know, and that was the time, other than like, you know, in small places like, you know, Nazi Germany, you could travel around the world. You know, you didn't have to worry about Chinese communism, North Koreans, you know, terrorism. You know, you could explore these places. It was a great time to be a traveler and an explorer.
Well, it was also rare, though.
Yeah.
The thing that the Second World War did. One of the things the Second World War did is it turned us into a global community.
Yeah.
Because by the end of it, the youth of America, and that's who went over there to fight, was the youth of America, knew there was more out there.
Yeah.
Before that, they would stay on their farm and never leave it. Afterward, they knew about Europe.
Yeah.
Because they walked over all of it.
Yeah.
So the adventure just kind of went out. And after, killing 100 million people,
kind of changed the perspective on things.
Yeah, it kind of puts a bad light on it. I don't know. But anyway, that brings us to the end of our show.
Dan, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for joining us. You're a sick bastard.
We love you for it.
I've got no comment. Anyway, join us again in 2 weeks, and we will, I don't know, have some topic.
Yeah, we haven't decided one yet.
Yeah. Anyway, until then.
All right. Ciao, everyone.
Folks. Thanks for showing up, and we'll see you next time.